Don Hayden, only on DTNLinkedRadio.com.
Ciao Bella, everyone. I am your host, Don Hayden. Tonight my guest is Sue Channel, and we are going to talk about her personal issues that she's having trying to save her dogs. I don't know how else to say it but that. And she's a wonderful person and beyond avid animal lover, and I wish there was so much I could do to help her. She's an animal angel here on Earth. So I'll let Sue tell you her story. Thank you, Sue, for coming on.
Hey there. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I just, every day, what's going on with you is on my mind. It's really making me mad. And as Tiff was saying, I would love, and I would personally go to the people that are giving you a hard time and give them a piece of my mind, but we all know that really wouldn't change your situation.
No, I mean, it's so easy to get mad, and it's like that is actually, understandably, everybody's first reaction. But I have to step back because that just takes more energy. And, I have to kind of, in some way, try and understand where they're coming from, but I guess we can explain to everybody what's going on. My husband, Larry, and I, we have 2 human kids, but before the human kids ever came along, we've always had animals, fur babies, as the common term is. We have 9 dogs. We came to Massachusetts a couple of months ago with our 9 dogs, and we knew when we bought our house that we were going to have to get a permit to keep them because the local ordinance only allows 3. And we were under the impression, based on our own research, and we have to admit now that it wasn't, we didn't uncover everything that we should have, but we didn't know that at the time. The permit requires us to go basically to every neighbor within 300 feet of us and get permission or get input, because ultimately they really don't have the final say, the zoning board does, but to try and get this kennel license. And the problem is the word kennel is throwing everybody off. Yep. All we are trying to do is keep our pets. There's no outside runs. The dogs are not kept outside. It's really kind of, it's a special situation, and we're getting a lot of opposition. So we've gone to the city meetings 2 months in a row now, and our final meeting is July 31st. I don't know what's going to happen. We've since gained more momentum. We've got some people that are supporting us, but it just weighs heavily on our mind because I can tell you right now, we're not going to part with a single dog. And I'm not trying to say this in a defiant way, in any kind of rebellious way. I'm just trying to say that we came here with 9 dogs. They're a family. They're part of our family, and we will leave here with 9 dogs. The problem is, though, we just bought this house. We don't have a lot as far as we sunk everything into putting a nice fence in, all that fun stuff. So it's just kind of an example of the sign of times. There's just so many animals out there that are getting discarded. There's backyard breeders who let their pets, have litters upon litters upon litters. They don't do anything. Those are the people that the city should go after, not the ones who are trying to save the dogs.
You're going above and beyond what I honestly can say I would do. I mean, my opinion, I love my animals, cats. We have 3 dogs, a cat, and 2 birds. And
we have a couple of cats, too, yeah. But we're not even bringing them into the picture, and the zoning board knows that, too, but that's just the least of the worry.
I remember before we adopted our first child, we had at the time, we had two dogs, and we had a cat. And I remember so many people saying to me, once you have a child, you're going to have to get rid of your dogs. I almost fell over. I did.
Yeah.
I almost fell over. Like, really? You know, they have been my babies. We've had them since babies.
Mm-hmm.
And I just couldn't understand the concept of why you would do that. Now, I understand people have a fear of dogs biting children. Now, this is just my personal opinion. I think, unless a dog is trained or is act defensively, it is up to the parent to watch the child. Because 9 out of 10 times, the child, does something to hurt the dog. It's just acting in defense. But anyway, back to my point. I just can't imagine. I never would have gotten rid of my dogs. It just wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So
I absolutely agree with you. There's just got to be a certain level of common sense. Now, if you have a newborn baby, obviously, and let's say, for example, you have a 150-pound dog, they can coexist. Now, maybe they're not going to be, there's going to be a certain level of control of the situation, but they can coexist. And some of the reasons that some of these animals, show up in the shelters, they're mind-boggling. I can tell you, and I'm more aware of this now than ever because of Facebook and social media, but some of the reasons that people drop animals off the shelters are, like you just said, we're going to have a baby, so we can't have both. We got to be careful, look out for our child. We're getting white carpet, so we're going to get rid of the dog. I'm serious as a heart attack. I have a friend that got rid of her dog because she got white carpet. We're getting the yard landscaped, and we don't want the dog digging holes, so we're bringing it to the shelter. We're trading the old dog that's been our loyal friend for 14 years. And, oh, by the way, can we adopt a puppy while we're here?
That one is, I've heard that one before. I volunteer at our local shelter, and I saw a couple different, older dogs, 8 years old and up, which I don't consider 8 older, but, some people do. And because, this dog really isn't as much fun anymore, and they're getting older, and, we have to bring it to the vet a little bit more. So I actually heard one woman say, I'm going to trade it in for a newer model.
Right, exactly.
And I just about shit my pants, to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and the fact that the shelters allow this, these people that turn their seniors in, they should be automatically put on a do not adopt list.
Absolutely.
They should never, ever be able to get a... Now, here's the thing, because I can hear it already because I've heard it on Facebook. Oh, wait a minute now. There are people out there who have no choice, and I absolutely agree. There are some people who have asked for help and begged for help, and the last thing they want to do is turn their sick animal into the shelter, but they have no choice. And for those people, I can tell you my heart goes out to them because I know that they're out there. But those aren't the people we're talking about. We're talking about the people who just don't want to be bothered.
Absolutely.
And, okay, it's almost like karma's a bitch, baby. Turn your senior in, and then when you get to be old and decrepit, let's hope that your kids throw you into the nursing home. I mean,
that's the God's honest truth. It really, really is. And I remember several times seeing, and to me, which is the saddest because, when these people get old and they can't take care of that dog anymore. And that's so understandable. And, you see their, older children coming in, my mom has to go to a nursing home, my mom can't work anymore. And that person at the time in their life when they need that pet the most, because so often that is truly their only friend and their only companion to rely on.
Right.
It breaks their heart, and it would kill me. It would absolutely kill me. But yes, you're right. That's a completely different situation.
Right, and there's something that has to be done. I don't know what. That's something a bunch of people across the country should brainstorm and try and figure out, because nobody who wants to keep their pet, regardless of the circumstances, whether it's that they lost their job, they're losing their home. I have known people on Facebook, and I tell you what, some of my animal advocates on Facebook, they're some of the best friends. I may never meet them in person, but there's a connection. I know that firsthand from what some of their stories, they've lived in cars before they'd give up their animal.
I would. I'd give up if I would never ever abandon my pet ever. And I would live in a car before. Now I don't know about you, but I kind of feel, and this is just a personal motto. And I actually dumped a guy once because he didn't like animals. True story.
Okay.
I was going out with him. He was a great guy, but he hated animals.
Mm.
And I used to try to make sense of it. Couldn't stand it. Hated cats, dogs. It did not matter. And I went over one night after I thought about it. I mean, he had a lot of great qualities at the time, and I just dumped his ass. I was like, to me, there's something wrong. Or let me rephrase that. I personally cannot have a connection with someone that doesn't love animals. If you have an allergy to cats, that's understandable. But if you legit, straight out hate animals, I just personally feel that there's something lacking in you, a certain empathy, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's almost like I'm not, it's almost like a warning flag. It's to me,
yeah.
I worked with somebody that absolutely hated dogs. And I'm like, that to me, she was likable enough as a person, but I'm like, there's something, deep on the surface. I'm just like, it's a warning flag to me. And I try to like everybody for whatever reason. I'm not exactly perfect myself. But, it's just like, it's immediate, almost like a repulsion almost. That's my immediate reaction. It's like, what? You don't like animals? What's wrong with you? Yeah.
It's like when I look at them, I see them having this hole or something, and it's so visible, and I'm just like, and probably a lot of, it's probably very judgmental on my part, and I'm really quite sure it is, but I just don't feel that, we could possibly have any kind of relationship. Because you are lacking that empathetic, sympathetic, something that's important in a human being.
Right. It's almost like they're putting up some kind of a wall, because if they're not going to a lot of people will let cats in, but they won't let people in. But if you won't even let a cat in, I mean, it's like, what is it, I'm not saying that there's a lot of people out there, they don't necessarily have to like animals like as much as we do.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
But, at least, but to absolutely come and say, I hate animals, which I've actually had people tell me.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that have said to me, I hate animals, and act like they're physically repulsed when they come near them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a 2-pound chihuahua or a kitten. I mean, I don't understand that. To me, it just, in my mind, you're borderline sociopath. You're lacking empathy.
Seriously, I hate to say it. And I don't want to stereotype people, and I don't want to prejudge people. But, it's like these are harmless creatures that all they really want to do is be loved. That's the only thing they ask. And they've done, which I thought this was so incredibly interesting. And this goes for animals, dogs, cats. It goes beyond dogs and cats. But any of the creatures that you look at, sweet little face, a dolphin, whatever, and babies, that they did this psychological test, I guess. And and it makes sense, and I'm probably not saying anything that anyone doesn't already know or hasn't figured out, but that when we as a human, or someone with
your average normal emotion, empathy, looks at that face, it gives off a signal in your body, and it releases certain chemicals.
Right.
You know, when you look at a sweet baby face, you look at a sweet dog face, you look at a sweet cat face. So, for the norm. So to me, if someone doesn't have that reaction, it's like, okay, what are you lacking chemically? All right, maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into it, but
like, is there a certain empathy thing that they just don't have? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really interesting, which probably is what saves our children when they're little most of the time. Otherwise, parents might be made up.
Exactly. Well, there was an episode of Love It or List It, which is, you might be aware of, it's a show on HGTV. And this couple was, being torn between, are they going to remodel their current home, or are they going to go out and buy a new home? And in this particular episode, they were out in the garage, and there was this cute little Yorkie that was in a crate because obviously, they had to get the dog out of the house to show the house. And then a couple feet away was a cage with two parakeets. And the woman just immediately recoiled. And the realtor said, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Oh, my God, these pets." And he said, "Well, they don't come with the house." And he said, she goes, "Yeah, but the fact that they've been in the house is enough to deter me away from this house." I immediately just like, oh, my God, how can she have been married to somebody for 30 years? Because clearly she's just ice cold.
Oh,
that was my first reaction. Now, I mean, again, that's prejudging, but that was my immediate reaction.
Right. And that's what why I wanted to do the show, is to get out my opinion and other people's honest opinions without pussyfooting around a subject,
Pardon the pun.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. I didn't think of that.
There you go.
Now, what is it that you are doing right now for I'm going to call it your cause, your kennel cause?
Well, right now, and actually it's not something we're doing so much, it's something somebody stepped forward in the community because he got word of our situation. A couple of people have set up a Facebook page, and it's called Help the Channels Keep Their Dogs. And what we are trying to do is get people to go to Facebook, look up the page, like the page, share the page with their friends. Within the page, and this is, again, not anything I created. Thank God this guy stepped up. He's an animal advocate, very, very organized, very, he's written a couple of things. There's a letter that's embedded in what they call the pinned post, and actually it's more ideal if local people in Greenfield, Massachusetts can fill this out and print it, but it's just basically in support of our cause. And the reason I want to mention, because a lot of people are thinking, oh, my God, 9 dogs, she's got to have absolute chaos at this house. I don't blame her neighbors. Let me tell you something. Our neighbors cannot, because there have been no reports. And if there have been reports, we are home during the day. If I'm working in Hartford, my husband is home. If he's in Hartford, I'm home. Those dogs are supervised all the time. There are no rapid, or should I say persistent, barking spouts or anything like that. When they're outside playing, and 9 dogs do not go out at once, 3 of the big dogs, because I should mention 5 of my dogs are Siberian Huskies, 3 Huskies go out at once. They are supervised. Huskies don't generally make a lot of noise anyway. The little ones are the ones that yap at butterflies and everything else.
Yes, I have a Chihuahua, and he never shuts. I have a little Chihuahua, and he never shuts up.
Yeah, and actually the thing is, and we've been reading into this, the little dogs, the reason they're yappy, it's their job to alert the alpha dog. Now, in our case, they're just alerting the alpha dog in our house that there's a butterfly in the yard, okay? I mean, that's it. That's all they got going on. But we constantly pick up the yard. The Huskies live in a temperature-controlled, air-conditioned in the summer, heated in the winter garage. They are outside as much as possible during the day, which is why we work from home. Our vet, when we lived in Virginia, told us that we take better care of our multiple dogs than some people take care of one. So back to the point. We've had people come out to the house already. They've taken pictures. They were surprised absolutely at how well-kept the house is, how well-kept the dog space is. So there's this Facebook page, and again I'll say it's called Help the Channels Keep Their Dogs. There's a document where people can print it off and sign it. It basically says we've heard of the situation, we support them. They mail it off to the address on the letter, and if they could do it by July 17th, that would be ideal, because our meeting's coming up at the end of the month. Mm-hmm. I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly don't. If we lose the situation or the cause to get our permit, we do have a chance for appeal. I have heard stories, and I don't know what to believe, that even if we're in the appeal process, which could take 1 to 2 years, there's nothing saying that the city could not just show up one day and take 6 of our dogs away. And if you don't think I don't have nightmares about this, you are wrong. I have nightmares about this 3 to 4 nights a week.
Oh, I know you do, and I have to tell you now, I talked to somebody the other day, which I actually hadn't told you yet, but I talked to somebody the other day that actually I don't think that you know, but that lives in your neighborhood. And I was mentioning this whole thing, and this person said, which I found to be incredibly interesting, and so I was looking forward to telling you, and I said, my friend, and I told her the story, and she said, yeah, she said, I had a couple neighbors come to me and tell me about it. So I said to this person, have you ever heard, she goes, and she lives very, very close to you. She said, I've personally never heard any barking. I've never heard anything. She said, I didn't even know they were there. Mm-hmm. Until a couple neighbors came to her and told her what was going on, obviously, because they have nothing better to do.
Right.
And then this person said, well, I was under the impression by what the neighbors told me that she was trying to open a kennel for rescue dogs.
No.
And I said, no. And I was so glad, like, we were talking about this so I could inform her. I said, oh, my gosh, no. I said, this is what they're just trying to do, and this is why they have to do it. And she, now, I think she, in her mind, I mean, she, nodded and agreed, and she probably was like, oh, sure, right, I don't know. I mean, she didn't say anything, but she's, and I understood what she was saying. She was like, well, I have 2 children, and she was getting her information secondhand from people that were opposed. Mm-hmm.
Right, so there's a very organized opposition.
I was very glad to inform her.
Yeah.
I said,
the thing is, though, I wrote a letter to all these neighbors in advance because I was told to go door to door in advance, and I'm like, well, that's not going to work because I could be, dragging my body on the doorstep after being hit by a car, and half the people won't, and I'm not just saying this neighborhood, but just the way people are in general, half the people wouldn't open their door. So I wrote a letter. I told them we are not getting any more dogs. We are not trying to open a rescue. Our pets are just dogs who have been rescued. We're not getting any more. I don't know that anybody read my letter. It's just absolutely frustrating because everything that they brought up at the first meeting as far as concerns, I had already told them in the letter. I had given them my phone number. I said, come by and see for yourself. None of them wanted to do that. They just rather show up in opposition and basically shoot it down before they even knew what was going on. And it's very frustrating to me because I told somebody that after the first meeting, my husband and I left that meeting feeling like we were convicted felons just because we want to hold on to our dog.
Letter. Yeah, put the scarlet letter on your chest
Yeah,
and we'll bring
dog lover.
and stand in the town center all day.
We're not getting, and I have somebody that's been, communicating to people that we're trying to get more dogs. Someday we're going to get more dogs. We're not going to get it here. That was never part of the plan. We want to open up, a rescue someday, not here. I made that clear in the letter, but I don't know that they read the letter. Again, they'd rather just condemn me. It's just, we just want to keep the dogs that we have. It's so beyond why it's even gotten this far. And I'm telling you, what's going to bring down the property value in this neighborhood is the attitude.
Well, that was
I made a joke about somebody buying my house the other day, and she said, I wouldn't want to live in your neighborhood if, for anything. And she said, not because of what you're doing, but because of what's being done to you.
Right.
So if they had just given me a chance and probably just, because this is something, if they had given the kennel license and we had screwed up, and I can tell you we're not going to screw up, if they had just let it go, then this would have just been very quiet and whatnot.
Right.
But, I've just never seen anything like it. They think there's going to be commercial traffic or something like that because I don't know what they think, but what it is what it's going to be. Nothing's going to change. We're not, as soon as it's going to get the permit, we're not going to have, traffic influx and have all this, industrial equipment in the yard. Nothing is going to change. We're going to maintain the same level of care that we always have. That's that's how we roll.
And I'm just, when you were saying that, I'm just envisioning, like, the way people react, like, you're either going to start having truckloads, at 2 a.m. in the morning backing in your driveway.
Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking.
Aliens,
Yeah, exactly. And I addressed this all. I gave them my phone number. Nobody once took the initiative. It's the same situation. We have a neighbor that it was for something unrelated. It was a property line issue, and instead of the neighbor up against his property saying, "Hey, buddy, you're mowing into my yard. You may not be aware of this, but this is my property." Instead of doing that the neighborly way, he just preferred to serve the neighbor with court papers saying, "Do not trespass." So this is just the kind of people that I deal with. But back to the animals, it's just like I'm just having trouble in general. Never mind my neighborhood. Never mind. I just have trouble with the fact that, and if you look at the Massachusetts law on this whole stuff, which we have gotten more information on, they don't even refer to animals as, they refer to them more as objects.
Oh.
They're not even given the respect of being living creatures.
Well, one of my objects I buy $100 insulin for every 2 months and give him a shot in the morning and a shot at night. Now, I'm certainly not going to be doing that to my couch. I mean,
right. Thank you. Yep. I don't know how to change the mindset. I just really do not, because we're doing a community service, people that step up. Now, I can see, if anything, it should be a case-by-case, evaluation, because there's people that have one dog that can't take care of the one dog. The dog, I mean, and I hate to say it, but, obviously there's something that's going to be done, and I don't know what the answer is, because this is the mindset we're dealing with.
Right.
Objects. The objects that when you have a shit day and everything has dumped on you from the minute you walk into the office, and all of a sudden you come home and you've got this wagging tail that is absolutely happy to see you because they've been living for this moment all day. I can't put the term object on that. I'm sorry.
100% unconditional love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I worked in the nursing homes for 10 years when I was in my 20s, okay? And as God is my witness, I saw this on over 50 different occasions in 10 years. Back then, they really weren't too big on bringing animals into nursing homes because, the whole germ issue and allergy issue, which now, thank God, they have in-house cats, they have in-house dogs. It's proven to be the best therapy. But I used to see Alzheimer's patients who whose minds were completely gone for years, and you would place a kitten or a dog on their chest or in their hands, and they every single time respond to it. Their hands would automatically go up. It was like human nature. They would start petting it. They would start kissing it. They would light up when they were lost in this completely different world that we don't know what's going on in there. Every single time. It's the best, and I don't know what the studies show, but I'm just saying from my personal account, it could have been even more than 50 times, but it was so often, and every single time there was not one time when one of those patients didn't respond in a positive way to some kind of pet therapy.
Yep, there's just something very soothing, and it's just, and we're becoming as a society so absolutely germophobic. I mean, pets, and no wonder we get sick and we can't fight colds anymore, is because we're not even letting ourselves be exposed. And I can tell you most pets have less germs than computer keyboards. I mean, come on.
Oh, absolutely. Doorknob, yeah. I freely admit, I kiss my dogs that kiss me on the lips, they kiss, whatever. I mean, that to me is the, besides your children, is the best kind of unconditional, real love.
Yeah.
And I always tell my girls, I'm like, and they know, I'm like, if mommy's ever dying and I'm in a hospital or I'm somewhere, I said, besides you two, the only thing I want you to do is bring me in one of my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, don't let them take that dog away from me, because there's no better therapy. Here's another fact. My dad was 52 years old when he got cancer. He was very young. He got pancreatic cancer. Yeah, and he just retired from the police force at the age of 50, which was really young to retire. He was so excited. Long story short, he developed pancreatic cancer 6 months after retiring. At the time, we had a Shih Tzu that my father worshipped this dog. Absolutely worshipped him. He walked him 4 or 5 times a day. He was originally my dog, but my dad really kind of took him from me, but he worshipped this dog. My dad's cancer, or pancreatic cancer, which is like one of the most lethal cancers you can get, went into remission for a year. And the doctors in Boston said, we have no idea why your father's, this particular cancer has never gone into remission. And, so just talking, trying to figure out, they're completely, awestruck. And, my mother was like, well, my husband worships this dog. He does not entrust anyone else to walk this dog, to do anything else with it. This dog sits with him and the doctors, and it was so obvious that this dog is what kept him going. Mm-hmm. And I swear to God, again, whatever you want to believe, I'm saying my opinion from my observations were this man went into remission because of this dog, because he could not leave this dog.
Yep, I absolutely believe that. The power of love is very powerful, whether it's and you kind of almost believe that no matter how much you love your children, they're going to be okay.
Right.
But in the back of your mind, who's going to take care of my animal? Who's going to take care of my pet? Nobody's going to take care of my pet because my pet needs me. My kids will be okay. They're going to, grow up, but who's going to take care of my pet?
Because there's
a story, and I don't know, it's very, very popular on Facebook. There was a German Shepherd, and it's probably the most photographed dog in the world. Last year, he was photographed in one of the Great Lakes in the arms of his owner. His name was Shep, and he was just shy of 20 years old, and he had really, really bad arthritis. So in an act of love, his owner would take him during the summer into the lake where he would literally, because of the buoyancy of the water, he would not be in pain, and that's how he would fall asleep. And Chef
oh my God.
was the reason
you're going to make me cry, Sue.
that guy is still alive, because he was literally probably minutes, if not hours, away from killing himself. And then all of a sudden he looked at his dog and he's like, who's going to take care of my dog?
Absolutely.
And that is why he did not kill himself. And Shep lived to be just over 20 years old. He died probably within the past 8 months. Mm-hmm. And everybody was like, oh my God, how, I don't even know. I hate to say it. I know the dog's name. I don't know the owner's name. But if you saw the picture,
about the owner.
yeah, I mean, but they do, because it's like, how is he going to be now that Shep's gone? That was the only reason that he's, if you saw the picture, you'd know which picture I'm talking about. It was actually on, international or national news. It was because that's how touching it was. That he would go down every night and bring the dog into the warm waters of the lake, where the buoyancy would help him relieve his joint, and the dog would fall asleep.
Bless him. Oh.
So there are people out there that, do dogs go to heaven? Do cats go to heaven? Let me tell you something. When I was in the Navy back in the early 80s, and I was stationed in Puerto Rico, I had this, quote, Bible-toting person who knew it all, and I'm not saying, I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in the Bible. I believe in all that stuff. But when people take it upon themselves to decide that they know who's going to heaven and who's not, they lose me. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that no animal goes to heaven because they do not speak the word of Jesus. Now, let me tell you something. They may not speak the word of Jesus, but they live the word of Jesus every moment of their lives. So, do dogs go to heaven? Absolutely, they go to heaven. There's no doubt in my mind. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind that they're going to heaven.
Well, to jump on that story, now, I have had dinner with Lorraine Warren, the world-renowned, Ed and Lorraine Warren, which I've talked about.
Love her. Yep.
Love her. Worship this woman. She's when I walked into her home, I swear to God, and I by no means am I a religious person at all. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not. But I'm spiritual because of, paranormal things I've had in my lifetime, so I've been given no choice. But when I met her, it was like being in the presence of an angel on earth. I swear to God. But anyway, the last time, actually Shannon and I went down there, and someone asked her a question of, when we die, are we going to see our animals? And I tell you, I was tearing. It was like a room full of people. It was like being in the presence of Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, God, whatever your religious beliefs are, but the entity above, or the presence, would not have put animals on this earth to give such unconditional love and to bring us such joy to not be able to see them again once we die and we cross over.
Mm-hmm.
And she proceeded to explain what she knew of her personal experiences. And, again, whatever your belief is, but it gave me such relief to know that. And yes, I've always kind of believed that, but you need that reassurance.
Absolutely.
Someone who has dealt with this her whole life, and this woman worships her animals. She has a rooster, she has dogs and cats, and the love that she gives off just to a person that she doesn't know coming into her home. So you can imagine the love I saw between her and her animals. But to have her assure everybody that, as far as she knows, that is fact, and it just made so much sense.
Yep. Because, there's a story, that where, there was an animal that was walking through the Garden of Eden with God, and he was accompanying God while God was naming all of the animals. And, he walked with God as he named the lions, and he named the elephants, and he named the giraffe, and he named the fish and all the animals of the ocean. And at the very end, the animal looked at him and said, God, I've been by your side the whole time. What about me? What name will you give me? And God looked at the animal and said, I give you the most sacred name of all. My name spelled backwards.
Oh.
And it's like, when you read it, it's a lot more humbling than when you hear it, like, from somebody like me. But it's just like, wow. And I love all animals. Granted, I love my dogs and I love my cats. I love all animals. I always have. It's just, I used to have probably 50 stuffed animals on my bed when I was like 4 years old. And if one of them had fallen on the floor, I knew it.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I knew one was gone from the flock, so to speak. So I'm like, oh, where's my little bunny? And I'd look under the bed, and there it was. But I mean, I knew. So it's just always been that way for me. And I'm like one of those people. And there's something going on Facebook, and it's kind of funny, but it's like I don't care who gets killed in the movie as long as the dog is okay.
Yes, I saw that.
It's like I can't handle this. Like the dog is like gonna get, like, oh my God, don't let anything. I don't care if the man gets shot or anything. My God, And I don't mean to sound like I don't care about people, because I absolutely do. I have compassion for people. I really do. I believe that there's some people out there that just they milk the system. I believe there's people that need a hand up. Absolutely need a hand up. But there's also those people that are just waiting for a hand out.
Oh,
and I'm sorry, there's a difference between the two. And, it's the people that think they deserve a hand out that give the people that need a hand up more difficulty, because the people that need a hand up aren't the ones that are wanting to ask for help. They just have to. The people that need a hand out just think that, asking for help is the only way they need to do anything, because they don't feel like doing it on their own.
Absolutely. I was thinking earlier back to my dog and his insulin, just, food for thought, because I did not realize this until my dog got diabetes, but dogs and cats take human insulin.
Mm-hmm.
So the insulin I buy is the same exact insulin that you would take, that your child would take. So that kind of tells you something too.
Right, exactly.
Animal diabetes is the same as human diabetes.
Yeah.
So I just had to throw that in there, thinking about how they call it, the reference to objects.
Yeah. It's infuriating, and I just feel like right now what we're dealing with personally is a limitation on the value of life. An ordinance on the value of life.
Now, can you tell everyone, what you have, not to get too personal, but the amount of money and what you have done to your home for these dogs?
Well, they're not made, we were living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So, but when we bought the house, there were several houses that we could have bought that if it were just us that we were taking into consideration, we could have gotten a heck of a lot cheaper. Not that we spent a ton of money on this house, don't get me wrong, but we could have probably gotten $30,000 less than what we bought, easily, if we were just looking out for us. When we bought the house, and again, we anger a lot of people because people think that we should have known what we didn't know. And we thought we knew what we had to know, but we didn't.
Of course.
So, all I can say to those people is stop being mad at us because we weren't trying to screw anybody over. So we bought, and we don't even, people, we don't even blame our realtor because our realtor did tell us that we needed a kennel permit. Okay, she did, so put that out there. We don't blame anybody. But here we are. So we bought this house, and we bought it because the layout was perfect. It was a really, really, really good-sized backyard for the huskies to run around and play in. The problem is it did not have a fence. Now, anybody that knows anything about Siberian Huskies, and unfortunately there's too many people out there that don't, Siberian Huskies should not have a yard, especially when you have multiple Huskies, that does not have a fence. And I'm sorry, there's people out there that think, oh, my Husky will come back on recall anytime. Bullshit. Their prey drive is so high, it doesn't matter how well they're trained, all it takes is that one cat or that one squirrel, and they're gone. And ask those people whose Huskies have been hit by a car because they went off a recall if they regret letting their Huskies run. So be that as it may, we sunk a significant amount of money into not just a fence, but a very nice-looking, wood, nice quality cedar wood, 6-foot fence. So that was on top of after, we spent special transport to have these dogs brought up here, professional transport.
I can't imagine.
Okay, it wasn't like we threw them in the back of an SUV and came up. We had somebody that did this for a living take our Huskies up here. And then we had a garage. Okay, now everybody knows that the winters in New England get pretty harsh. Our cars will never see the inside of that garage because the garage has indoor-outdoor carpeting, professional kennels, and by kennels I mean they're not in crates. The Huskies are out as much as possible during the day to play, but they have to have their quiet time. And Huskies, if they're bored, can do a whole lot of damage in a short period of time. I've had, I don't know how many friends that have lost multiple sofas because they left their Huskies alone, unattended, for like an hour. So our Huskies have these professional kennels where they have their own food and water and their own blanket and their quiet time. And then plus on top of that, my husband insulated the garage. So he put basically an extra layer, into the wall because of sound and heat. So, yeah, it's pretty steep. So the alternative will be if we don't get this license that we're going to have to move. How we're going to rebound after we just bought a house, I don't know. I have no answer for that. Everybody's like, well, what's plan B? I don't know what plan B is yet because money doesn't grow on trees. And we're not about money. We're about life and compassion and all this other stuff. So we're just going to have to, if it doesn't work out, we're just going to have to figure something out. But like I said in the beginning of the show, we came with 9 dogs, we're leaving with 9 dogs. Somebody said, oh, we'll help you rehome if necessary. They might as well be swearing at me. They might as well be cursing at me because rehoming is not an option. It's just not going to happen.
When I've offered in the past, like, God forbid, I mean, if to watch your dogs for a while, if, God forbid, you had an emergency situation, I was never thinking that. I was thinking, like, if it was, like, emergency, it's like, oh, my God, I have to.
Right, temporarily until we figure things out, yes.
Right.
Permanently, no. No. And the thing is, it's like, okay, the problem is the only dogs that could really go out there to other homes that would be just fine because they just love people are the Huskies. But Huskies cannot go to everybody's home. It's a special, you have to be set up for Huskies. It's not, people just don't get it. Huskies are beautiful, beautiful dogs, but they are also extremely intelligent, high energy, high maintenance dogs. And so you can't just, I've had Chihuahuas all my life. I'll take your Husky for a couple months. Forget it. You can't even imagine. We didn't even, we did our research. We've had dogs our entire lives. They still threw us for a loop for a while because we just did not even understand the intellect. And, they will do something for you. It doesn't matter how much training they've had if they think it's logical. You can tell that
people like that.
I really know. Oh, my God. I swear, I don't know.
Because seriously,
Look at
I
today's
really don't
youth,
know
I'm telling you.
a lot of people that even have that intelligence. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic or
Right.
facetious, but seriously.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's scary. Look at what we're doomed to do. Oh my God. I mean, anyway,
Well,
don't even get me started on that.
That well, number one, I want to come to your house and put myself in your room for vacation and quiet time because I need a time out. And I think I'd be living pretty good there. And number two, when you're saying the husky's chewing the couch, I know a bazillion children that would, human children that would do 10 times worse. So when people throw that aspect of having an animal, being a downside, I'm like, I worked at a daycare and saw children, 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds that did not come from good homes, which is massively common, destroy furniture, walls. I mean, so don't even go there with because it's a dog or because it's a cat. It will destroy something. At least they can, they can be taught. Where some human children that I've personally seen, God help us that's our future, because I don't think there was, the way the parents they had, that they were going to be taught much of anything.
Right.
Except how to hurt other people. So I just had to say that.
Well, I mean, it's kind of scary, moving away from animals for a bit. Let's talk about humans. There was a show, a thing on one of the news stories, I think it was like last week, it was one, like Good Morning America or something, and this guy was driving his SUV and something happened and the car literally just burst into flames. And the wake-up call is when you see how many people drive by compared to the one person who stops.
Absolutely.
What is this world coming to?
Yeah. I one time I was stuck on the road with a flat tire way up in East God's country. 2 women stopped.
Right.
And I kind of took it personally. I was like, I was younger and, single girl out there, and I'm like, hello, none of you guys are stopping. I mean, I get it. They, from the guy's point of view, you stop, you can be accused of something, but it's really usually more women that stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me think. I watched this documentary on HBO, which I totally recommend. It's about the foster care system in this country. And I won't go into it because I know my time grows short. But, I mean, how we're treating our human children, never, dogs and human children is disgusting.
Well, I'm going to swear until the day I die, what's going wrong with humanity is that they're taking the hugs away. And you can't hug it. I remember when for example, when our last day of school in 3rd grade, our 3rd grade teacher, Miss Tarrant, gave everybody a hug as we were walking out the door. You can't do that anymore because it's not politically correct. And that is what's wrong with the world. The world needs more hugs, and it's as simple as that.
And it's funny you say that because my children go to a immersion school, and the teachers that are from the other country are, because they're not from here in America, they are so loving and gentle, and they so many teachers would love to be loving, but it is such a fine line these days.
Right.
And I
We've let a few bad apples spoil the whole bunch, and basically, it's sad. And it is from, I had a daycare for a while, a few years ago, and, when I had to go through all the rules and regulations, and, the inspector would come out, and the licensing woman, and, I was like, I can't do that. Yeah, I mean, it's like your immediate instinct as a good human being is to nurture those younger, but they're not letting us there, meaning society, political correctness, whatever you want to call it, they're not letting us do that. And we're breathing passion, never mind express passion, because they're not being, you know, back in the day, maybe a hug from a teacher was the only hug that anybody ever got. But now they can't do that because they're freaking, they can only do black and white now. They can't reason anymore. A child draws a picture of a gun, and they're expelling the child. Come on. Let's, you know, it's madness. It's just absolute madness. I guess I had a little, you know, I'm straying off the topic a little bit, but it just goes back to just compassion in general, whether it's for a human being or for an animal. What happened to it? Where is it?
I wish I could find it. I really do. I realize my time grows short with you, and I should have done a 2-hour show. But I would thank you for sharing your info, and I feel like I want to have you on again just because there's, you know, I really wanted to get into shelters and everything. But while we close up shop, how can people contact you or tell them about your Facebook page so they can actually see pictures and everything on there?
If they could go to, I mean, they kind of have to do a search, help the channels, and it's CHANNELS, keep their dogs. If they could go to the page and like the page, even print off the document that's on the main post, sign it, mail it, I mean, just make people aware. We're not the only people in the universe here that are going to be dealing with this. This is going to be the same, you know. So if anything helps, just, I mean, even that. So, and just keep us in your prayers. That's all we ask.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, honey. I appreciate it.
And thanks for anyone for listening. And you can message me through Facebook, Dawn Hayden, Dawn at Night, or DTM Radio. And thank you so much for listening. And ciao, Bella. Until next week. Bye.
Good night.